anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of such shall be my hire. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come from my hire before thy face. Everyone that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. And he removed that day the goats that were ring-streaked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. Right? Yeah, and notice, guess what? It's recorded here that goats were given birth to goats, but with varied appearance, but they were still goats, man. And that's still observable today. Okay? And he set 3 days' journey betwixt him and Jacob, and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and piled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters in the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ring-streaked and speckled and spotted. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ring-streaked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban, and he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. So basically what Jacob did was, Jacob worked out a way, right, using certain herbs, using certain ways to manipulate the produce of the different animals, man. And then he knew that the strong animals would what? Breed strong animals too, and the feeble animals would breed feeble animals. So Jacob that's all scientific knowledge, man. And you know what? Even Esau knows that, because I'm gonna go into one of Esau's commentaries, man, the David Guzik commentary. And about that passage, this is what this Edomite said, man. He said, Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar and of almond and chestnuts. Now this is what he said. He said, when Jacob put these branches in the drinking troughs of the flocks, it apparently increased the number of speckled and spotted offspring from the solid coloured flock Jacob managed on Laban's behalf. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob. He said, Jacob also used selective breeding. Man, to increase the strength and vitality of his flock. We don't know exactly how this method worked. It is possible Jacob knew more about animal husbandry than we do today. They said, but it is more likely Jacob did the best he knew, and God blessed it. But that's the point. Back then, the men back then had certain knowledge that we don't even have today. Okay. So that's another. Our forefather Jacob, man, he wasn't no idiot, and he was dealing with knowledge. He was dealing with science, man. He was blessed with the knowledge from the Most High, man. Now we get Jeremiah 29:2. He says, by the hand of Elasar, the son of Shaphan, and Gemariah, the son of Hilkiah, whom Zedekiah king of Judah sent unto Babylon, to Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, saying, Thus saith the Lord of the hosts, Salakia. I read the wrong bit, Salakia. Well, still supposed to start from the second verse. It says, after that Jeconiah the king and the queen and the eunuchs, the princes of Judah and Jerusalem, and the carpenters and the smiths were departed from Jerusalem. So in Jerusalem you had carpenters, man. Now when you look at that word carpenter, let me get in the blue letter, H2796, just to show you, man, we weren't no dummies, man. We weren't, you know, man. Even if the people in the Bible were dealing with science, how can the Bible be against science, man? That's ridiculous, man. That's asinine, right? Right. The word there is karash. It says there, a craftsman, artisan, engraver, graver, artificer, right? Makers, right? An engraver of stones, an artificer of iron, brass, stone, wood, smith, mason, and carpenter, man. So these men were experts in metal work, woodwork, stonework, right? Putting these things together. These were engineers, man. They weren't stupid. This weren't just some people with a hammer and a fucking chisel, man. If you're gonna deal with metal, then you gotta have a knowledge of chemistry, man. If you're gonna deal with wood, the same thing. You gotta know how to treat that wood. You gotta know what type of wood to use, man. That's all knowledge. That's all science. Right, that's all things which people go to school today to learn. Right, people go to university today to learn. This is the knowledge we had in ancient Israel, man. Okay, so we weren't a bunch of dummies, man. You think if you follow the Bible, you're gonna be some religious nut, and you're gonna cast away knowledge. No, you increase in knowledge, man, because all knowledge comes from the Bible, man. All knowledge comes from the Most High. True knowledge, not that pseudo, not science nonsense. That comes from Satan. Right. So it said carpenters and smiths. So we're going to get H4525. And that's our Masaga. It says shutting up, locksmith, smith, dungeon, enclosure, builder of bulwarks. Okay. Basically architects, man. Right? Architects, lock makers, you know, which are things you can't be no dummy dealing with, man. Right? So that just shows you, man, you know, that's the type of men our forefathers were. They were no dummies, okay? And all these men went into where? Babylon, to make Babylon great. Yeah? Because the wisest men in Babylon weren't the Babylonians. The wisest men in Babylon were the Israelites. Right? And we're going to prove that too. Daniel's 1:1. It said, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, which part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Salakia. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of it, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favoured and skillful in all wisdom and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. Okay, so basically they wanted the wise men of Israel, man. Right? And in the Bible itself is telling you what? Men who were cunning in knowledge, skillful in wisdom, and understanding science. Okay, and Daniel was one of them, and Daniel was so wise and understanding in science that he became above even the men of Babylon, man. And he wasn't even a Babylonian. He was in captivity. Right? Now we're gonna show you, man, how cunning Daniel was. It says, and the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah Shadrach, and unto Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego, which shows you that changing the names of Israelites to suit the captors ain't nothing new. Okay, right? That ain't nothing new. There's no new thing on earth. That's why in Egypt you ain't gonna find the name Joseph. In Egypt, Joseph was known as Imhotep because he had an Egyptian name. That's why when his brothers were brought before him and his name was presented, they didn't recognize him because he didn't have a Hebrew name. He had the name Imhotep. Okay? Now it says, but Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat. Right? Because the king's meat was probably pork and all kind of abominable creatures, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs, and the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink, for why should he see your faces worse like than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, let them give us pulse to eat, which is vegetables, and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, and as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days their countenance appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. So that shows you that, you keep the dietary laws of the Most High, you're going to be in a better case. So that's the knowledge and wisdom of the Heavenly Father. But that shows you that Daniel was a nutritionalist, man. He was a nutritionalist. That's something you go to university to learn again. And it's a science. It's a biological science. Nutrition. Nutritionalist. Okay? So what the fuck is you motherfuckers talking about that the science is against the Bible, man? When man in the Bible, who wrote books in the Bible, were scientists. These are out your fucking mind, man. Right? And he did an experiment and proved it. Right. Okay, Second Chronicles, sorry.